So we all know pessimism as the tendency to only anticipate or emphasize the bad, undesirable outcomes in your life. And I've noticed that there's this kind of growing cult, if you will, of pessimism amongst people my age and people who are college age, where they glorify the fact that they hate everyone, or life sucks, or anything among those lines or phrases. And it's actually kind of upsetting, really. A lot of this pessimistic attitude is rooted from people's lack of confidence, because this is fairly common with adolescents and college age students or college age people, because we tend to doubt ourselves at this age and our own capabilities. We tend to have these mantras such as I can't do it, I'm never good enough, I'm useless, I'm worthless, or I will never be loved, or no one will ever love me. So this brings me to my first step to becoming at least a little more optimistic, and if not, just a little less pessimistic. And it's to drop these kind of limiting beliefs and stop compliment filtering. And I really believe this is the first step, since you need to have a stable foundation when you're going to try to be more optimistic in life. And you do this by affirming your own worth, and everyone has their own worth. This also brings up the topic on pessimists being more realistic and honest with themselves, whether it's about life or the world or whatever. But the thing is, pessimism is not equal to realism, despite the common belief. What I mean by this is that because pessimism is no more than a belief system, how an individual interprets the world in their eyes, it isn't a reality. A pessimist may see that they can never be successful because they're a failure, for example. But in reality, it's really rare to achieve success without failing a few times. But the thing is, the pessimist doesn't believe that. They put a limiting belief on themselves, such as I can never be successful. Therefore, in the end, they never even try in the first place. So the way I achieve this step is through keeping a journal or a diary and writing good things that people say about me or what I say about myself, but I always limit myself because I tend to be a pessimist. That can just be stuff like, people think I'm nice, I have good manners, I have decent grades, stuff like that. You should stop following all triggering blogs or websites on your browser or on Tumblr, which is what I did. Stop hanging around toxic, negative people, and stop compliment filtering. And this next point, it's really important that you stop saying that you hate the world or you hate everyone, because it isn't the world against you. That's what you may think as a pessimist, but it's really you against the world. You are putting yourself against the world, and that way you're just making everything harder for yourself. That's why you keep saying that you hate everyone, or you think that everyone hates you, or you hate the world. It's not that. That's not really how reality is. I mean, when it boils down to it, you're a human being too, just like your friends, or the person sitting next to you, or the person in the other room. So you should treat yourself how you treat your other friends, or how you might treat a stranger, because it's important to nurture your own body and your mind. I said that pessimism isn't equal to realism earlier, but that also means that optimism isn't equivalent to reality as well, because it's a belief system too. So the definition of optimism, as you would expect it to be the opposite of pessimism, is the tendency to look on the more favorable side of events and expect the more favorable outcomes in your future. And this is exactly why the optimism bias is better than the pessimism bias. And the optimism bias is basically an overestimation of the good events that could happen in your life and an underestimation of the bad and unfortunate events that could happen in your nearby future. But despite this seemingly unrealistic view of life, optimism in the end is still better than pessimism, physically and mentally. And it's definitely not because you're lying to yourself, as the common belief is. Being realistic with bad situations that happen to you does not mean you have to be a pessimist or you're automatically a pessimistic. Like I said, being a pessimistic doesn't mean you're true to life or you take life more seriously or you see life as a reality rather than optimists do. Like, optimists don't see life as a fantasy, or they're not stuck in a fantasy world. And this leads me to my next point. There are two components to the optimism bias, which is high expectations and anticipation. And you've heard of the quote, most likely, that low expectations result in happiness, because you can never be disappointed, right? But that's not exactly the case with this quote. So if you ask yourself what your favorite day of the week is, it tends to be the weekend. But for some reason, Friday always wins over Sunday. Well, the answer as to why is pretty obvious. I mean, on Friday you don't get that same, oh no, tomorrow's Monday feeling as you do Sunday night. Because on Friday you get to spend half the day at school or work just anticipating the week and just thinking, oh, I can't wait to sleep for like 21 hours when I get home, which is what I do, or go to that party Saturday night. You can't do that on Sunday because you have Monday the next day, which sucks. You don't get that same feeling. The high expectation and anticipation of your weekend is why optimism makes us happy. And we tend to work to reach this expectation, whether it be, like I said, taking a 21-hour nap right when you get home from school on Friday, or going to that party Saturday night. And this is also why optimism acts as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It makes you try harder to reach that high expectation you set for yourself. As a result, happiness comes even if you fail to achieve that expectation. So let's say in my situation I don't get that sleep, which tends to happen during my weekends. I don't really care because I have more weekends to look forward to and anticipate where I could sleep more. So the third thing that helps boost your optimism is appreciation of life's pleasures. And it took me a really long time to look at life the way I do now. When I used to be depressed and suicidal, I felt like everything was just gray and dreary, just the common things associated with depression and suicidal thoughts. And it took a lot of thinking and reflection, just a lot of time on my own. But I began to look at every single thing around me as beautiful. Because I know it sounds weird, but I began to find the most simplest things really beautiful, like the sidewalk or a plate or sunsets, or as some of you know, like clouds and flowers. Or even just the way music sounded when it resonated in my ears. Because I would think to myself, like, how the hell was that even made? What were the chances of the universe making this thing? Like, I just thought it was so strange. What made it possible for all these atoms to pile up and create this thing I'm looking at or experiencing or listening? And I just thought about how extraordinarily rare life is itself, because it's just strange to me. I just began to appreciate it more. I mean, if you think about it, there aren't any extraterrestrials or aliens nearby us that we know of. And I really think it's really strange and lonely, but also cool and fascinating, and it makes me wish I could live forever so I can see how humans ourselves progress and how humanity progresses, and see if we ever get to meet these extraterrestrials or if they even exist. And it doesn't have to be just appreciating this though. You can start by appreciating all the small things in life. And I know it's a common saying, appreciate the small things in life. You might think it's stupid or lame, but it's extremely true. You can start off small, like appreciating how cute your pets are, just how cute animals are in general, because they are really cute. I think it's something that we kind of tend to overlook, because look at them. And you can start by appreciating, the waitress serving your food. Or maybe you can compliment that person because maybe they had a bad day, and maybe you're that one person that can make their day a little more bearable. The more you appreciate how strange and perplexing life is, the more you'll be happier. Life, as what a lot of people think, isn't some corrupt cycle of just graduating high school and getting a degree you hate at some college you hate, only to get a job you hate even more, and to get married, have a family, and regurgitate some kids, and have them repeat the same cycle you did. Like, life is only like that if you make it to be like that. So stop talking about what you hate all the time about life and start talking about what you love, because it's more captivating to people anyways. My final tip to you is to persevere and to fake it until you become it. And I know this quote, well, you all know this quote, fake it till you make it. And it isn't exactly right. But when I first heard this variation of the quote, I thought it was so impossible for me. I thought it was really strange. Like, how could I get over my anxiety and my self-esteem problems and my cynicism just by faking it until I actually become it? Like, the quote was basically saying that eventually I'll be anxiety-free, totally confident, and an optimistic and happy person. And to be honest, I'm not totally anxiety-free and totally confident today. I still have my issues, of course, but it's gotten better as I was starting to fake it more. And I realized this when I'm telling you now about how to be optimistic. to an old friend I saw as a self-destructive kind of cynical pessimist. And when she refused to listen to my advice at first about how to be more optimistic, because she said she knew she wouldn't accept him anyways, and I thought to myself, how can you be so unreasonably and stubbornly cynical? Like, you're just totally blocking out my advice and telling it to my face, like, oh, I'm not gonna listen to you. And I had this sort of epiphany moment right then and there, because I felt like I was literally looking at a reflection of my past self, and I looked at her and I was like, holy shit, you're exactly what I used to be back then, which was kind of rude, but this was months after I started faking my optimism. At that point I realized I wasn't faking it anymore, and I'm going to show you this old personal text post from my blog from about a year and a half ago. And as you can probably tell from my text post, I'm really not that person today. I'm just telling you right now that it's really amazing what a person could do in a year to change themselves if they put their mind to it. I made a complete 180-degree turn in my life just because I started looking on the bright side more. And I used to think, and a lot of you might think this deep down too, that I just thought I don't deserve to be happy, I'm just a terrible person and I suck and I hate this world and I should probably just die because I have nothing to provide, because I have no passions, blah blah, stuff like that. But now I'm just looking on the bright side all the time and anticipating the best for my future, even though today I'm actually probably even more stressed than I was last year and way more sleep deprived than I was last year, but I'm still happy. And this comes along with my high expectations for the future. I'm excited for the future now because of the way I changed the way I perceived the world and how I interpreted the situations that happened to me. So I can really hope that you all can just do the same. I really hope that you can become happier and more resilient and more optimistic, even if it means starting from rock bottom. Because I know that a lot of us are in a terrible place where we do unspeakable things, we think unspeakable things, and I've seen that before, I've experienced some of that before, but I'm just proof that you can change the way you are right now, even if it means starting from the miserable state you're in. And I want you to see the good in life and learn to acknowledge the bad things and learn to turn these bad things into opportunities for growth and wisdom, because that's how you should approach life. Life is supposed to be enjoyable. You shouldn't dwell on all the sad things, even though sad things are a part of life. I want you to realize that everything is temporary, and this includes the sad times and even happy times. And this is why I personally believe why optimism is super, super important, is because we need optimism to know that even the worst of times is only temporary.